Welcome. This is the video that will cover the 12.2 notes. This is section 12.2. The topic is prisms and cylinders, specifically finding surface area and volume of prisms and cylinders. The previous video covered the formulas and 3 examples. This video is going to go through your notes. So there are 3 features that define a prism. Let's write down what the 3 features are. So the first is, it is a 3D, three-dimensional shape, 3D or three-dimensional shape. Okay, 3 dimensions. Second, it has 2 identical parallel bases. And so does a cylinder. A cylinder has 2 identical parallel bases that happen to be circles, but a cylinder is not a prism because the third property of a prism, the third feature of a prism is all of the faces are flat, has flat faces, okay? Flat faces. Okay, for instance, over here in this example, that is a rectangular prism. The bases are these little squares. They're both 4 by 4. They're identical size. You could call them congruent parallel bases. And then the other faces are rectangles, but all those faces are flat. Okay? So that's the features that define a prism. How do you find the volume of any kind of prism? Well, what we're going to do to find the volume, as it said on the bottom of that previous page of notes, you find the area of the base. Remember, you have 2 identical bases. You find the area of the base. So I'm just going to write down the formula. Formula for volume of a prism. You find the area of the base. And you multiply that times the height or length of the prism. Some people like to call it length because if you're talking about the height of a triangle, we don't want to get the height of the triangle confused with the height of the prism. Okay? So some people will call that the length of the prism. Area of the base times the height, or area of the base times the length. So we're going to go over to example 2. Find the volume and surface area of this rectangular prism. Once again, this is the length of the prism. This is the width of the prism. This is the height. We have to understand that we're not doing 12 times 12 times 4 to find the volume. We're going to do a length times a width times a height. That's how we're going to find the volume. If we go back to our formula right here for a rectangular prism, length times width times height. And there's a picture of it as just a box, right? Just a box. Okay, so volume. I'm going to do volume first. It's actually easiest. I'm going to do length times width times height. So 12 times 4 times 4. And then I will grab my calculator and I will do 12 times 4 times 4. That's 192. So the volume is 192, but we're going to put units on that. It will be cubic inches. Volume is always in cubic units. Next, we're going to do surface area. Surface area of this thing is going to equal, well, let's do this. I have, let me start with these 2 faces right here. the bases. Those are both 4 by 4 squares, so I have 2 of those. So I have 2 times 4 times 4 plus, because these are squares, my other 4 faces are 12 by 4. Look, it's a 12 by 4 rectangle, and there are 4 of those. So plus 4 times 12 times 4. And then I will grab my calculator, and I will do that computation. So I have 2 times 4 times 4 plus 4 times 12 times 4. And that is 224. This is square units. So my surface area is going to be 224 square inches. Square inches. Okay? So we've calculated the volume and we've calculated the surface area. Next up, read through the following examples, circle the errors, and solve correctly over here on the side. So we're just going to solve it correctly over here. Okay, so first thing I'm going to check, do they have the right formulas? This is a cylinder, right? This is a cylinder. So when I look back at my notes, I need to look for the formulas for volume and surface area of a cylinder. So I'm going to flip back to my formulas. Okay, scroll down to the cylinders. Volume is pi r squared h. Surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Let me check and see if that actually worked. If those are the formulas they have. Okay. Pi r squared h for the volume. That tracks. Surface area 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So they've grabbed the correct formulas. Okay, so I need the r and the h. This is the h. H is 4. The diameter is 16. That would mean the radius is 8. Radius is always half the diameter. There's the radius. It's 8, half of the 16. Oh, they don't have the right radius. We need to put an 8 in there. So volume equals pi times 8 squared times 4. Now, I'm going to grab my calculator, and I'm going to do 8 squared times 4. That is 256. So the volume is 256 times pi. And that will be kilometers cubed. Now, if you have a problem that asks you to find the volume in terms of pi, this would be that answer, volume in terms of pi. If I need a decimal answer, I will grab my calculator. I will do 256 times pi. Oops, let me clear all that. 256, and then I do second function and the little up arrow, or what looks like an up arrow, it's the caret mark. And that's 804.25. Putting some units on it, that is kilometers cubed, cubic kilometers. Okay, next one. Let's see, we've already checked they have the right formula, but they didn't put in the right thing for the radius. That needs to be an 8. And RH, I need a 4 times an 8 and 8 times a 4, right? So if I just replace this one with an 8, we're good, because we can switch the order of multiplication. So surface area needs to be changed. It's going to be 2 times pi times 8 squared plus 2 times pi times 8 times 4. You can switch the order that you multiply. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my calculator. I'm going to do 8 squared, which is 64. I'm going to multiply that with a 2. That's 128. I have 128 pi. 8 squared is 64 times 2, or make your calculator do it. That's 128 pi. Plus 8 times 4 is 32, times 2 is 64. Or make your calculator do it. 2 times 8 times 4, 64 pi. Now I can add those the same way I would add 128x with a 64x. That gets me 192 pi. That's my surface area, 192 pi. And then I will grab my calculator. I'll do 192 times pi, 603.19. Okay, again, if I needed an exact answer in terms of pi, that's where I would stop right there. If I need a decimal approximation, I grab my calculator and I do 192 times pi on the calculator. What was that again? 603.19. 603.19 square kilometers. Okay? And there's those questions in the notes. As you do this next example, you're going to create a triangular prism. Make sure the numbers make sense. Find an example that you do in the homework, or look back in the other video. I did an example of a triangular prism there. And that is the end of this video.